I'm Melissa Martinez with Austin 360, and I'm going to show you some baking tips as I make a strawberry cake with cream cheese frosting. The last thing that you want is for your cake to get stuck in the pan once it's done baking. To prevent this, you want to butter your cake pan, then line the inside of the cake pan with a circle of parchment. Then butter the parchment. This will ensure that the cake will release smoothly. When you're ready to make your batter, the ingredients for your cake should be at room temperature. The best way to do this is to set them out the morning before you plan to bake your cake. The temperature allows the ingredients to trap and hold air bubbles, which make the cake rise as it bakes. If you've forgotten this step and your eggs are cold, you can put them in a bowl of hot water for 10 minutes. Another simple trick for a better cake is to use cake flour instead of all-purpose flour. It might be a pain to buy a new type of flour, but cake flour contains less protein and more starch than all-purpose flour, so it creates a more tender cake. It's also a good idea to sift your flour when you add it, again adding more air to the cake batter. Before you remove the cake from the pan, you want to run your knife around the edge of the layer inside the pan to make sure it has separated. Once you have your layers, icing, and filling ready, you want to make a square of strips of parchment paper on the surface you plan to use to serve the cake. You will center the cake on the strips. You might notice that there's a dome on top. Having your cake domed makes it hard to stack the layers. Using a serrated knife, you can level the cake by slicing across the top. If you're worried about your cake drying out, or you just want an extra moist cake, you can brush the cooled layers with simple syrup. Adding a jam, jelly, or curd filling makes for a beautiful slice of cake, but they can leak out between layers. To prevent this, pipe a circle of your icing around the bottom layer of the cake. Refrigerate until the icing is set, then spread the filling inside the circle. Once your cake is filled, carefully set the second layer on top of the first. You want the bottom of the second layer facing up, giving the cake a smooth, flat surface on top. One of the hardest things about icing a cake at home is getting all of the crumbs concealed. The trick to combating crumbs is a crumb coat, a thin layer of icing that seals them in. Using a small icing spatula, cover the cake with a thin layer of icing, then refrigerate it for 15 to 30 minutes. Once the crumb coat is set, you're ready to put the last layer of icing on. With your larger icing spatula, start by icing the top of the cake and then the sides. If your icing has streaks in it, dip the spatula into a glass of hot water, wipe it dry, and then use it to spread the icing. The heat helps the streaks melt together. You can easily make your smooth, simply iced cake pop with colored letters, sprinkles, fun candles, or any other cake decorations available at cake or hobby stores. If you're going to use lettering, practice your icing writing on a sheet of parchment paper before writing directly on the cake. Once you're done icing and decorating the cake, you simply pull out the strips and you're left with a clean cake plate. Now that your cake is assembled and iced and decorated, it's ready to be enjoyed.